Hello, how are you? I'm out here in the backyard with our good friend, the garden gnome, and we are here to speak to you today about logic. So, we're looking at arguments in the form of a syllogism. Mathematically, it's something like if A, then B, if B, then C, therefore, if A, then C. You might have to take a second look at that, but just imagine if A, B, if B, C, you can then drop the middle term and go straight to if A, C. The middle term of B drops out. The most famous example is all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. See if you can complete that thought, right? Does it jump out at you? All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Drop the middle term of being human, and you get, therefore, Socrates is mortal. So this is one type of argument called a syllogism, and we are looking at the shortest form of it, where we have two premises followed by a conclusion. I would do one if we could, right? But there is no such thing. You need at least two premises so you can combine them to produce a conclusion. If we had a one premise argument, well, there is no such thing, right? You have to have two premises so you have something to combine that then makes the conclusion. We have discussed this week sound, valid, invalid, and I want to talk in this video about which term is which. Now, the common mistake, and I get it because we all do it when we first study logic, if we see true statements, we think, well, that's valid. If we see false statements, we think that's invalid, right? We assume that validity versus invalidity is based on truth. And that's just not the case. So validity does not test for truth. That's really the secret to all this. When you start looking at an argument, test for validity first and put truth off to the side. Then step two, ask, is the argument sound? And then bring truth back in. That's the key. So if we have something like, today is Monday, my garden gnome is over my left shoulder. Therefore, Greg Abbott is the governor of Texas. Well, today is Monday, the day that I'm making this video. The garden gnome is back there over my left shoulder, and currently Greg Abbott is the governor of Texas. Three true statements, but this is not a valid argument because the first two statements do not guarantee the truth of the third. Just think about it, right? Today could be Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The gnome could not be there. I could move it. That really wouldn't have anything to do with who the governor of Texas happens to be. So it's not enough to see true statements and say, well, the two premises are true, the conclusion is true, I guess it's valid. No, validity does not test for truth. Validity is about, do the premises guarantee the conclusion? Now, take something like my backyard is on Mars. First premise. Second premise, I'm in my backyard. Therefore, I'm on Mars. Well, we hear that and we think, well, that's wrong, so it's invalid. But the key word here is if. If I assume premise number one, if I assume premise number two, will the conclusion have to follow? And the answer is yes. If my backyard is on Mars, and if I'm in my backyard, then I'm on Mars, right? Valid argument because the two premises do guarantee the conclusion. But now, is it sound? No, because my backyard is in fact not on Mars. The second premise is okay. I am sitting here in my backyard, but the first premise is wrong. My backyard is not on Mars. So once again, we look at validity first. If, keyword, the two premises are true, then would the conclusion follow? Bracketing truth, right? If, right? If we pretend that premise 1 and premise 2 are both true, then would the conclusion necessarily follow? If not, the argument's invalid and we stop there. If the answer is yes, right, the two premises, if true, would guarantee the conclusion. Okay, so we have a valid argument. Now truth is brought back in. Are both premises true? If both premises are true, the argument is not just valid but sound. If one or more premises false, the argument is still valid, but it fails to be sound.